I'm 7 years old, and it's my very first day at Bridget School in Lynn, Massachusetts. And my mom, she bought me a pink pinafore dress, black Mary Jane shoes, patent leather, lace socks, and then she put my long brown hair in pigtails and ribbons to match the dress. I feel so pretty. I'm so excited about school. I can't wait. So then we get to school and we get to the front steps, and there's a photographer from the only paper we have, the Daily Lynn Item, and guess what? He wants to take a picture of me, my first day of school, and it's gonna be on the front page that night. Wow. So anyway, we go up the stairs, we go to meet my teacher, Miss Dukas. She was so kind, and she introduced herself to my mom, and then my mom said goodbye, and I go into my classroom, and I see, oh my God, I see Joy, my friend Joy, and then I see Joni. I'm not alone. I'm so excited. This is such a great day to begin school. So the morning is going great. And then we have recess. And in those days, the playgrounds were black tar with high wire fence. And it was a beautiful September day. And we go out, and I'm leaning against the fence. And then all of a sudden, this older boy, he comes over to me. And he looks down and he says, "Hi, my name is David Spinney. What's your name?" And I go, "Hi, I'm Sherri Goldberg." And then, at the top of his voice, he screams out and he yells, "Sherri Goldberg is a dirty Jew, and I'm gonna get her." I believed it. I believed it for years. And that changed everything for me. And then I got really scared. So when my mom came to pick me up at school, I told my mom what happened. And I said, you know, Joy can go to school with me every morning, but sometimes in the afternoon she's got to go shopping with her mom. Can you pick me up at school because I'm too scared? And she said, "Sherri, I'm sorry what happened, but no, I can't. I'm too busy. I'm all alone. I have to figure this out myself." So one day, Joy says, "I can't walk home with you, Sherri. I gotta do errands with my mama." And so I stand on the front of the Bridget School steps for a half hour. And I could have gone across the street to Mr. Brown's candy store, but I decided to stand on the front steps. And I stood there for a half hour. And then I crossed the street, and it's Lewis Street, it's a busy street, so I know I'm safe on Lewis. But I'm not walking, I'm running for dear life. I'm running, out of breath running, because I know I'm coming up to a street called Nahant Street, which is quiet. So I make a left on Nahant, and I'm maybe 2 blocks from my house on Ocean Street, and all of a sudden, I feel something hitting me in my back. And I look down, and they're empty food cans. And all of a sudden I hear, "Sherri Goldberg is a dirty Jew, and I'm gonna get her." I was terrified. And I ran, and I ran, and I was crying and hysterical. And then I finally turned on Ocean Street, and I run in 2 houses up my driveway, and I look behind me, and David Spinney had took off. And I go to the back door, and I open with my latch key, and I go, lock the door, and I go in the kitchen, and I start to cry. I'm all alone. Who says this? Who says this to a little girl? And what parent doesn't take care of me, leaves me all alone, doesn't protect me from this when this happens? I would never do that. If I had children, I would never do that. Many years later, I lived with my husband in downtown Brooklyn, and we had 4 boys amongst us. And we lived on a block where the block took care of its own, never called the cops. And in our house was the godfather of the block. His name was Joe. He loved us, we loved him. And one day my young kid comes home to me and he says, "Mom, one of the boys on the block called me a dirty Jew." So I immediately go to Joe. I said to Joe, "Joe, you know the kid. He called my younger one a dirty Jew." Joe looks at me and he says, "It'll never happen again, Sherri." And guess what? It never did. So, I love food, but I love sex. And growing up, I grew up in repressed New England, Lynn, Massachusetts, a repressed household, and I was told that if I was smart, I should never show it in front of a man. I was told that my education was not as important as a man. I wanted to go to drama school, and my parents said no. I was told that I was just to look pretty and never show that I was really smart. And I had nothing in my name, no credit cards, no anything, nothing. And I'm now told, as a woman of a certain age, I am not to be sexual. I am not to like sex. I'm not to fall in love. And God forbid it should be with a younger man. And let me tell you, I'm a grandma. And what grandmothers look like then, God bless them, and what they look like now, how do you do? We've changed a lot. So, take that repression. At age 21, I get married. And Michael and I move from New England to New York. This naive young woman, the first year of marriage, it was fine. And then after the first year, things just went downhill. And they were so bad. The best thing out of the marriage, really, was 2 sons we created, 2 amazing sons. But finally, it took me 8 years. I said to Michael, "Hey, let's go into therapy. Our marriage is really bad, and let's try to work it out." And he said to me, "No." He said, "What I want He said, we all live under the same roof. You go your way, I go my way, and I say, no way. I know there's a better life for me. I just know it. So it takes me 2 years to leave him. And I told him, I said, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to leave you. So within that 2 years, I get a very smart, supportive therapist. She first says to me, Sherri, get stuff in your name. Bank accounts, credit cards, checking accounts, savings accounts. Show that you're alive. Show that you're here. I had nothing, no power, and I had to get a part-time job. I was a stay-at-home mom. And then I noticed that my dressing started to change. And I always tried to emulate my conservative mom and dad, not mom and dad, my mom and sister. And all of a sudden I started wearing long skirts, peasant blouses, jewelry, and I changed my brown hair to red. And one day I looked in the mirror and I went, hey, you is one good-looking young woman. And then she says to me, Sherri, I want you to be with other men and women, or whoever you want to be with. I want you to know what it's like before you leave Michael. Holy crap. I went from no sex to sex all the time. It was like I was in a candy shop. I had to try vanilla, chocolate, pistachio, whatever there was. I would try it, you name it. And I had to have it everywhere. Indoors, outdoors, in the forest, the water, on the table, on the floor, wherever it was, I tried it. It was great. And I was having the best time. But all of a sudden, for me, the Jewish guilt comes up. And the New England guilt comes up. I'm having too good a time. I must be a sex addict. So I take myself to a 12-step sex addict meeting on 33rd Street and St. Stephen's Church. And I go in there, it's mainly men, and I kind of go in quietly, sit down, and one guy said, I just got out of prison and I like violent sex, and that's what I'm looking for a woman. I'm going, oh God. And then another one goes, you know, I don't do nice things to women. I know I have a problem. I went, holy F. I don't belong here. I'm not a sex addict. At break, you never saw anybody run out of there so fast. I didn't belong there. I was just, who knew I was having such a good time? I'm not supposed to have a good time, but I was. The irony of the whole thing is, I'm a book publicist also. And the very first book I worked on was How to Satisfy a Woman Every Time and Have Her Beg for More. So I'm newly divorced. Yay! Wow! Now I have to find a roommate share, and I have to find a job. Okay, so in those days, everything was newspapers. So I went out and I got the New York Times and I looked for a roommate share. And sure enough, I see, exactly what I want. So I call the woman, and I set up to meet her the next morning. What did I have? I had no job, whatever. And I get on the block. It's West 86th Street. Gorgeous tree-lined block on the Upper West Side, and right near Riverside Park. I can work out. And it was a gorgeous building with an awning and a doorman. Who knew? So I go in, and the doorman introduces me to, he rings and he says, she's here. So she's on the first floor, ring the bell, she opens the door. Her name is Janet. Really cute, blonde hair, blue eyes, kind of chubby, around 45, very chatty. We go in, wall-to-wall carpeting. To the right is the bedroom and her living room, and then straight ahead, big picture window in the kitchen, a door where you could walk outside, fabulous. And then there's a hallway, that's where my bedroom is, right next to the bathroom. And she opens up the bedroom, fabulous, queen size, everything I would want, desk, a chair, and beautiful bed, and whatever I needed. And everything was in storage, so what did I need? So, right then and there, I gave her 1 month's rent, 1 month's security, and believe me, what I paid then and what you pay now, forget about it. And that Friday, I move in. And I am telling you, we had a bottle of wine, feeling no pain, and we're having a great time. And then all of a sudden, I hear, I call that schlepping in the hallway. My roommate schlepped back and forth in the hallway, goes into the bathroom, turns on the light, puts in the plug in the bathtub, turns on the hot water, turns on the cold water, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Goes into the bathroom, pulls out the plug, turns off the hot, turns off the cold, shuts the light, go to her room. My girlfriend and I are feeling no pain from the wine, but we're kind of rolling our eyes. This is very unusual. So the next day, I'm real excited, because that night, I'm having a guy, a very sexy guy, that I met at Riverside Park, and he's a stonemason at Cathedral of St. John the Divine. And I have a funny feeling he's going to stay the night. So he comes over, we're having a great time, and guess what? You heard it, the schlepping. Back and forth, back and forth. Only this time, longer. You know what? I knew. Sherri, she's cuckoo. You made a big mistake, Sherri. I don't say anything to the guy. And she's schlepping, goes in, turns on the light, puts the plug in, turns on the hot, turns on the cold, and schlepping back and forth, only this time longer. And then she comes, pulls out the plug, turns everything off, goes into her room. I say the next morning I go out and I buy a newspaper and I get the hell out of here. This is so crazy. So, the next morning, I go out, another newspaper. This time it's the Free Village Voice, now defunct. And bring it back to my room. I'm looking, she's renting my room, and she hasn't even told me. Now I'm so crazy. I've got to exercise. So I start taking off all of my street clothes. I put on my running bra, my bikinis, my pants. I put on my socks and sneakers. I'm ready to go running off of this anxiety. And I go to the door and I hear, two women's voices. She's showing my room and she hasn't even told me. Now I'm crazy. I take off my sneakers, take off my socks, take off my pants, take off my bikinis, take off my running bra. I walk over to the door, open it, completely naked. She runs out screaming out of the apartment building. The potential roommate sharer rolls those eyes and just walks out. I close the door, get dressed, call my son. He comes over to help me out. We walk out and I say to the doorman, "Did you see that crazy loon run out of the building?" Sherri, lesson learned. When you're moving into a new place, you either ask the doorman if they have one, or you stand outside and ask the residents what's going on in the building. He said, "Sherri, if you had told me, I would have told you. She's nuts. They're constantly taking her out in a straitjacket." And her father, I guess, almost like a husband, was a big-time judge that paid everybody off so to keep it quiet. Oh my God. After that, man, I found a postage stamp of a studio around the corner. I wasn't going to go through that again. No way. No way. So now, I need to find a job. So I had been in theater for years and working part-time jobs, but I needed to make some good money. So here we go again. New York Times. I put an ad, situations wanted. I wanted to be an administrative assistant. So I get a call from this woman, a self-published author. In those days, it was unheard of. And she says her name is Nora Hayden, and she wants a book publicist. I said, "Nora, I put in for administrative assistant. Why me?" "I know you are resourceful. I just know it." She says, "Why don't you come to my townhouse on Lexington and 61st and we'll talk about it tomorrow. By the way, Nora, what's the name of the book?" "How to Satisfy a Woman Every Time and Have Her Beg for More." "Nora, is this a porno book?" She starts laughing. Come tomorrow. You'll see for yourself." Okay. So the next morning I go in the block, all brownstones. I know which one's Nora. Bright yellow, or brownstone. So I go up, ring the bell, door opens, blonde bombshell opens the door. That's Nora. This was in the summer. We walk through the hallway, and I see a cage hanging from the ceiling, a pigeon with one wing, and then a Vietnamese pig is running around the house. Don't ask. It was, I swear to you. So then she opens up the French doors, and the most beautiful veranda. it was just the most gorgeous flowers and gardenias and zinnias and snapdragons, all the most gorgeous green bushes. And to the right is a desk, a media book, and a phone. That's where you work. Well, I was desperate, so I took the job. But then she says to me, the book is 12 years old. What? Oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? A 12-year-old book? I took the job. Now, the reporters knew Nora. She had been in a lot of B movies, and she had this energy drink that was selling very well on the market. And they made fun of her. They made fun of me. They thought we were the biggest joke going. Within 3 weeks, Nora says to me, "You're the best I've ever had." Okay, I'll take it. Why, Nora? Sherri, I listen to you, and you can turn a no into a yes. So I'll give you an example. At the time, there was this huge show called Imus in the Morning. And he was syndicated throughout the whole United States. And I called his producer once a week, every week, for 4 weeks, leaving a voicemail. Finally, the 5th week, "Patrick, how are you? This is Sherri Rosen from Nora Hayden and How to Satisfy a Woman Every Time." If I hear that name once more, I'm gonna scream. Patrick, this is my job. I am telling you, you put them together, it's a match made out of heaven. They'll love each other. All right. Next morning, limousine, 7 a.m., in front of her house. And guess what? He had her on once a month for 5 years. That's how cool they were together. So I knew what I was talking about. And then the book went on. This 12-year-old book went on to the New York Times bestseller list, and it stayed there for 63 weeks. What a trip. You know the feeling when people make fun of you when you're trying to do something and they're ridiculing you and they're calling you every name in the book and you feel like shit, and all of a sudden you turn things around and then Oprah's calling you, CBS This Morning is calling you, Good Morning America is calling you. They all wanted us. And they even wanted to interview me. This was fabulous. What an inspiration. And guess what I learned? You do learn all the rules, and then you learn how to break them. Thank you.